Uh, we're going to begin today a series on wisdom, and it's going to last for 5 weeks, or maybe not, maybe some other kinds of weeks. But we're gonna go for 5 weeks. Jeremy and I are going to look at some of the wisdom from the Old Testament, some wisdom from the New Testament, and mostly try to come out to find out what is it and how do I get it? What is it and how do I get it? So the title of today's sermon is Wisdom, the Path to Our Best Life. That's also the title of the series. And I want to ask this question: what is my best life? What is my best life? I had a friend who gave me this idea in a talk he gave at ACU Chapel, and he called it the pinnacle of life. And and he was talking about himself, and he was talking about how he was really kind of nerdy growing up, but there was a moment in life in high school where he was cool. And then after that, it's been all downhill. And I thought myself, and he calls himself a cool nerd. That's how I was. I was on the football team and the debate team. Only football player in my high school that ever was on the debate team. And I liked it. I liked stuff like that. But I was also the quarterback on the state championship football team, which, by the way, I have a video and visual, real, not a video. I don't have a video. I have a 16 millimeter, and I have an audio of that moment where I scored the winning touchdown. And that was, for me, everything else since then has been downhill. In terms of, fame or being cool. Of course, thank you, Jenny. But of course, God has taken care of me so many ways, and He blessed me with if I can't be cool, at least I have a cool wife. There you go. And some of you guys know what I'm talking about there. Yeah. So, but what is our best life? Was it that moment I crossed the goal line? I remember I was on my way back. The state championship game was in Kansas State University's stadium in Manhattan, Kansas. I lived in Fort Riley, Kansas, and I was playing for Junction City, Kansas, which is about 20 miles away. And as we made that bus ride back after the game, after winning the championship, it hit me that, oh my, that's over. And now what? Now what is that? What does it mean to live? What is your best life? I'm going to say today, it's about peace and joy and love. It's about peace and joy and love on a regular, daily, weekly basis. Peace and joy and love. And so, considering those three things, we're going to talk about wisdom, because wisdom, as Jesus would say, and as Old Testament authors would say, the best path to that best life is wisdom. And James even says we should ask for it. Ask for it. You can, and God will give it to you. And so we're going to talk about that today. And we're going to begin by asking, well, what is wisdom? What is it? And there's several definitions we're going to use as we kind of go through the series. And the first one is this: wisdom is knowledge and experience. Key word, experience. And we are a group of experienced people. Amen? And which also means old. So our least experienced person in the room, I guess, is Lucas. And yet he also has experiences he has learned from. Right, Lucas? We're hoping. This is what knowledge and experience, this is wisdom, that leads to understanding when applied, when you're understanding that you've received from knowledge and experience. Now you understand something and you apply that understanding and put it into practice, then the outcome is peace and joy. Okay, now we're going to talk more about that. Sometimes, though, some of us have had an experience, and experience is our teacher. Okay? We've had an experience and it didn't lead to wisdom. Have you ever done this where you've not always learned from your mistakes? Maybe some of you have made the same mistake over and over, and you say, I did it again. The Bible often contrasts wise people and fools. And there's nothing worse than an old fool. Because you think that an old person would have figured it out. But so many have not. And so it's not just experience, but it's an experience that you actually learn from. And you move forward with wisdom. And so we're going to talk about this, and the Bible talks about it in several different ways. But today we're going to say that it's knowledge and experience which leads to understanding, which that understanding, when applied and put into practice, leads to peace and joy. So in the Bible, and especially, in the Old Testament too, but there's several places in the New Testament where it talks about the difference between different types of wisdom. And two categories that are most often talked about are worldly wisdom and godly wisdom. Because all wisdom doesn't necessarily point to good unless it's godly wisdom. And so we're going to talk about that. First Corinthians has a couple of chapters about the difference between worldly wisdom and godly wisdom. But I would say here's a couple of ways that worldly wisdom would say to you to follow your heart. Godly wisdom from Jeremiah would say the heart is above all deceitful. So maybe not follow your heart. Worldly wisdom, godly wisdom. One is this, where worldly wisdom is about selfish ambition, win at all costs, what's in it for me. Godly wisdom, not so much. In the book of James, it contrasts these two in a summary that's a little shorter than the one in 1 Corinthians. So I'm going for the short, but in James 3, it says this. I'm just going to read this to you, and you hear the difference between the two. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it by their good life, by deeds done in humility that come from wisdom. But if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, don't boast about it. Such, quote, wisdom doesn't come from heaven. That kind of wisdom is earthly and unspiritual and demonic. So there's this contrast between two types of wisdom. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. And doesn't this happen in almost every area of life? In business, in education, in athletics, in sports, in entertainment business, in families where you have unearthly, unspiritual, demonic. It's envy and selfish ambition, but sometimes it seems like promoted as wise. This is the way to do it. Often I've faced this talking to people, especially this is when I'm asking for advice and I have a certain way I think I should go, which sounds godly to me. But the person says, well, that won't work in the real world. This is especially when it comes to loving your neighbor or loving your enemy. You know, that won't work in the real world. And I think, I don't know if I want to live in the real world. It continues, it says, but the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure and peace-loving and considerate and submissive. Man, you know, if you're in athletics, that was my business, and my business was to win. We had just one goal: win. What happens if you don't win? Yeah. You get out of the business. Submissive people didn't win, as in my experience as a football coach. But it says, wisdom from heaven is submissive. It's full of mercy and good fruit. It's impartial and sincere. This is the contrast between worldly wisdom, godly wisdom. Almost all of the prophets in the Old Testament spoke against this kind of worldly wisdom, and especially they spoke against systems, religious and political systems who usually had joined forces. And this is, I'm talking about the prophets in the Old Testament. I'm not talking about the news that you might have heard this morning on the radio on the way here. This is a long time problem. But against a system that benefits the rich and powerful at the expense of the poor and vulnerable. This is the message of the prophets. It's the message of Amos. It's the message of Micah. It's the message of Habakkuk. It's the message of Jeremiah. All of them are speaking against this kind of wisdom, which benefits only the rich and powerful. And they began to, in the Old Testament, I don't know that this ever happens today, they began to legalize selfishness. They began to make the laws fit the people who are in power. They made the laws profitable for those who are rich and powerful. The deck was stacked. You ever feel like that is a modern problem? The deck is stacked. So as we go through and we get into this in the coming weeks, in a little bit, in just a minute, but we're going to contrast these two types of wisdom: godly wisdom, worldly wisdom, because the Bible points out that there are two, and you know, and I wish I had an automatic. Never mind. Here's one of the things the Bible says. This is a pretty famous and often spoken verse. This is just one version of it. It's in several Old Testament books and in the New Testament too. And we'll read these as we go. It says, "The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom." This is also stated in the beginning of Proverbs. And we're going to take a closer look at Proverbs next week. And this is probably the heart of the message today. The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. Now, we've talked about the word fear, both in Greek and Hebrew, not meaning terror, like you wake up and you think a lion is going to eat you. You know, you're having a terrorizing dream. It's not that kind of fear, but it's the kind of fear of God that is, and these are the two words I'm going to use: reverent awe. A reverent awe, that you're overwhelmed by the power and goodness of God. This is the fear of God. The kind of God the kind of fear that if he walked into the room, he would be so awesome, is the word I'm going to use, and we would be so full of awe that we would drop and say, wow. And this fear of God, realizing he is awesome and we should revere him, this is the beginning of wisdom. This is the foundation of being a wise person. This comes out in the teachings of Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount, which we'll talk about later, which is the big hunk of New Testament wisdom. But he started the Lord's Prayer, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. We would often translate that, holy be your name, but it's more than that. It's this hallowed, it's just like your name, just your name is, when your name is spoken, you are so awesome that it makes us seem not so much until you're in your awesomeness. You say, I want to share my awesomeness with you. Okay? And we're kind of back to the idea of awesome in a minute. But when you think of awesome, tell me something you think of. You know, it's a word that kind of got popular, and when I was a little kid, people didn't say awesome too much. By the time I was in college, you know, anything that was decent, you would say, ooh, that was awesome. That was ice cream was awesome. You know, that song on the radio, you know, the Beatles, they are awesome. You know, and it would be on and on. But it's a word to describe something that's really, 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 really good. Awesome. It's awesome. What do you think of when you think of something that is awesome? Just say something that you think, you know, that's awesome. The people in this church, that's good. Niagara Falls is awesome. I've never been to Niagara Falls. Mary Beth, put it on the list. Oh, that might be a little tough. Awesome. What's awesome? Well, I'll tell you what. Aaron Judge is awesome. He's a player for the New York Yankees, in case you didn't know that. It was awesome, right? It was awesome. There's a moment. Sometimes things are like Niagara Falls is awesome all the time. Some things are awesome in that moment. But, you know, it's something you want to describe it, but there's not a good enough word for it, really. It's better than good. It's better than great. It's awesome. It's awesome. Excuse me? What? Grandkids are awesome until, you know. Until, yeah. Amen. Whatever you said, I agree with that. But this is the fear of God, the awesomeness of God, understanding and realizing, or just beginning to think about the awesomeness of God is where wisdom begins. And why would you think that? Well, it's because if God is awesome, then what he's going to say is going to be good. It's going to be right. It's going to be good advice. Have any of you ever taken bad advice? I have taken some bad advice. Have any of you ever given some bad advice? I probably have. But what God says, and this is going to be what wisdom is, a lot of what wisdom is, another way to think about it, it's good advice. It comes from God. And when we understand that everything out of his mouth is going to be good advice, it's going to lead me where I want to go. Has anybody ever given you some directions and it turned out they're bad? Or for instance, maybe even on your Google Maps and you're following along this little line here and all of a sudden you're not in the place you're supposed to be? A couple of weeks ago, I got lost in Mansfield looking for you, Steve, and you guys. I was looking for you and I got lost because I was following my Google Maps. And it led me down a dirt road eventually. And the place y'all were at was not on a dirt road. And sure enough, there was a house at the end of the road. It had a huge, about as big as that wall, Trump sign on it. And I thought, I don't think this is where Steve is. But that's where my map had sent me. It wasn't good advice. And it wasn't good directions. Wisdom are directions, they're advice that, and when it comes from God, because He's awesome, okay, then it's good. We can trust it. We can do it. And it leads us where we really want to go most. I spent a lot of time doing sports stuff and, other stuff too. Other things besides sports have these things. But I have, and Mary Beth and I are kind of packing up our house because we're moving here. And I have some trophies. And I thought at the moment, these trophies were the best thing. And I sank all my life into trying to get these trophies. And now I look at them, I think, what's going to happen to those trophies? I mean, Goodwill won't even take trophies, will it? I mean, what are you going to do with these trophies? I got, I don't know why they do this, but when I was working for ACU, they would give you little, I don't know even it's not a plaque, but it's like the piece of paper a certificate, that's it. And it would say on there how well you've done. I would much rather have had just, a gift card to Starbucks. But I'm chasing after these things. Sometimes I'm chasing after the wrong things because I've had the wrong advice. And what I need is wisdom to chase after the right things. And as I'm chasing, not only I need wisdom to chase after the right things, I need wisdom that tells me how to chase. I need some, not just a map, I need some instructions that say, this is how you build this kind of life. You do this, and you do this, and you do this, and you do this, and you don't do that, and you don't do that. This is the wisdom that comes from God. It's wisdom that gets us where we really want to go, even when we don't really know where we want to go. But the wisdom of God always, the fear of God, the awesomeness of God, always leads us to this. It leads us to submission and surrender. And so this is a prayer that I've been praying for a while, and it comes in 3 parts. And the 3 parts are, you know my heart, God. I know you are sovereign. In other ways, I know you are in charge. I know you are the king. I know that. And there I submit. You know me. You know what I need. God knows what I need better than I do. I've had some heart issues lately, and I've told Steve, which is not good because Steve's had heart problems before and he's experienced, so he has wisdom about it. And he shares it kindly, but at the same time kind of poking me. 2 weeks ago, he asked me what I'd done about my heart situation. And I said, well, I haven't gotten to my doctor yet. He said, well, okay, yeah, you're a grown man. and walked off, basically saying, "You're an idiot." Steve has wisdom and experience when it comes to heart problems. Today, I got to say, I've got my echocardiogram scheduled and I've got my new medicine and things are looking up but it's because I'm listening to good advice. God knows my heart, not just this one. He knows everything about me. He knows what I need. When it says, you know my heart, God, it says, God, you know me better than I know me. You know me better than my heart doctor knows me. You know me. And I know that you're king, that you are sovereign, that you are in control. And so what I do is submit to you. Your will be done. When I understand or when I experience or when I see the awesomeness of God, I want to say, yes, sir. Show me the way. I trust you. You know. This is the beginning of wisdom to get to this point because God is awesome. So there's 3 Psalms that I really listen to on my audio Bible almost every morning, and one of them is Psalm 40. And gets down to this one. There's a contrast between the people who are my enemies and the people who God is blessing. And he says this in verse 16, all who seek you, may all who seek you rejoice and be glad in you. And may those who long for your saving help always say, the Lord is great. I think about us reading that together. And because when I'm listening to it, I do this myself, wherever I'm at, if I'm in my backyard or if I'm in my garage, if I'm walking down the street. When it gets to the Lord is great, I go, the Lord is great, like this. But really, as I look up the word great, it's really, the English word great doesn't get it, but neither do any others. But the closest really to it, because it's not just great, but it's like something that's getting more and more great. Like you were great yesterday, but you're even greater today. And this is what this word means. Magnified. May you be magnified. That's one way. But really the thing that hits the most is this. It's like, God, you're awesome. That's what it means. And so we're going to sing next the song, Awesome God. And I was telling Jeanette that I wanted to sing that song last, and she asked me, what'd you ask me, Jeanette?
You want to sing the whole Rich Mullins version or the Church of Christ chorus only? Awesome.
And I said,
the whole thing with putting on the Ritz.
Yes, which means putting on the Ritz means that you're kind of pretending you're more than you really are. And the song is going to say, that's not what God does. He really is He really is it. He's awesome. And as we sing the song, think of this verse. As he says, may all who seek you rejoice and be glad. May those who long for your saving help always say, the Lord is awesome or great. I'll say another word after we sing the song, but this is where wisdom begins, is acknowledging that God is awesome. That's also called fearing God. The fear of God, the overwhelm. He knows me, and he knows what's best for me. And so that's where wisdom begins. In this song, this is the beginning of wisdom. Wherever wherever you might see it in memories and photographs of Niagara Falls, or just the sun rising or the sun setting, that when you see the awesomeness of God this week, notice it and just say it out loud. God, you are awesome. You are great. And in this, we come back, and next week we'll be jumping into the Proverbs. All the Proverbs in one sermon. So there you go. Bring a lunch. And Mary Beth wanted me to make sure y'all know that we're not moving here tomorrow, but we're headed this way. So am I right, babe? Yes. She's awesome too. So here's the thing about this. God is awesome, and he wants us to mirror him. And he believes in you. Let's go. See you next week. More wisdom from God.